How you doing, folks? You're watching Onward with ONRIE Live. I'm your host, ONRIE Compen. And today, I got an excellent guest for you. She's a good friend of mine, a very talented artist and comic book creator. Allow me to introduce Christie Shinn. Christie, welcome to the show. Hang on just a second here, my friend. Welcome to Onward.
What's up? How's it going? Let me move my fucking camera too. Anyway, how's it
Look
going?
at that. You're right out the door with the F-bomb. And I love how that's what you asked me yesterday is, can I swear on the show? And I said, yes, you fucking can. Swear as much as you fucking want. I love that word.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just like swearing a lot is what I do. And actually, it's funny because when I interview people, like one of the writers said, this is easily the most dangerous conversation that we have because I'll just talk about shit like nothing. Like I was saying, like, you know, about some of the stories, what annoys me as a minority, you have this checklist of fucking shit that you have to go and fulfill without really bothering to write me about as write me as a regular person. And like, it's kind of funny because I kind of like fucking with people like that. I think it's like when you've been told like you're gonna die, pretty much. Like, you know, when they first told me about my tumor, we all know this. Okay. In short,
so hold on. Actually, we don't. So tell us a little bit about that. So,
okay.
Yeah, because I know about it personally, but my audience does not.
Yeah. So, what ended up happening was that I had a pancreatic tumor last year. It was 6 inches. I was just feeling like shit. Like I thought I had a kidney infection. Went in, they did an ultrasound, which kind of hurt more because they're not supposed to hurt. I just go, ooh, why is this doing that? And what ended up happening is they found a 6-inch mass, which they later found was a pancreatic tumor. And they basically listed, it's like, we highly suspect you have malignant pancreatic cancer. Well, that sucked. So they took me to a specialist. The surgeon there, a very good surgeon, he told me that he's seen this many times before. I do not have cancer yet, but I will if I left it in. So it was like at least, I'd say probably, I'd say that like 10 more years, it would have been cancer. That's what he said he was going to happen. So so essentially I went through the whole thing of, the whole week they were testing my blood to see if I had tumor markers. They didn't. They did an endoscopy to see physically how much it had spread, if at all, which it seemed localized. And the samples that they took, it had cystic properties. So it was like, it showed up negative. But the final test I found out is like when they cut you open a little bit. They open you up a little bit. They don't do it all the way. And if it has spread, they'll close you back up and say, we're going to try other options. Now with this one, they took it all out. But what they had to do was they had to take out the head of my pancreas, which had the tumor. But since the blood supply was so tied off to my pylorus valve and my duodenum, the lower parts of the stomach that control your food going in your small intestine, they had to take that out. My stomach would go necrotic. And they had to take out the gallbladder. Not that it wasn't anything wrong. They just needed a direct pipeline of bile into my system. So they pretty much yanked my guts up and stuck everything on there.
Jesus. And
the weirdest feeling is that I kind of miss my gallbladder just because it's like, you kind of feel like where it's missing. It's the weirdest feeling. And just like how your guts are literally rearranged and all the air pumped into them. And you feel like a goddamn balloon animal. But I'm fine now. I mean, they thought I would be diabetic. That was another weird fucking thing I had to hear the next day. Oh, chances are you'll be diabetic. And I just cried. It was just like, it was like squeezed this thin, my pancreatic tumor. So it was like, oh, that sucks.
I've come to kind of, I put the medical industry as a whole up to a very low standard in the sense that, there are knowledgeable doctors out there. Yes, they know more than the general public, but a lot of times they, when they predict things, they're good at treating and healing people. They're not good at predicting how you are going to react to certain things. And You've obviously recovered since. And
yeah, I mean, it's still kind of going back to normal, but I feel a lot better than I did before. You know?
That's what matters.
Yeah. I mean, I'm taking some enzymes, but they say it's variable. Like when I was looking at the medical stuff, it's like it's either a few months to a few years to the rest of your life. So I'm going to see how it goes. And my goal is to not do it for the rest of my life. Because they can get expensive. I mean, luckily my insurance pays for it, but it's like your insurance can change. I'd rather not be dependent on those fucking things if I can.
Absolutely. And so,
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm just kind of like going, I mean, I think maybe that was a good precursor for getting mentally trained for what we're going through now. And it's not that I don't have my down days. Like when I was going through my pancreatic tumor, I mean, I had my days where fucking I didn't want to do it anymore. I mean, I wasn't going to kill myself, but I was just like lying there like, I can't do this right now. Like digestion sucked. Everything was swollen in the inside, which was the weirdest thing because like, it's like you're hungry, but when you eat, you can barely eat anything. And you lose a fuck ton of weight because your stomach's also beginning to dump into that. So it's like when your stomach gets more evened out and more used to what it's doing, then you have less of that. But it literally feels like you're this big drain. It feels like that literally. So, I mean, for me, it's just like, when people were freaking out about COVID and everything, and I've had a kind of a weird feeling we were actually going to turn out better. And I know some people may argue that or something, but considering like some of the other countries that are still dealing with it, like they were just kind of, oh, let's go and just do whatever, herd immunity, and then they would lock down like draconian, like, because that didn't work out. But I mean, considering the fact that we as the US have been in this for about like a couple of months compared to some of the other countries that have been in this for months and months, this is pretty lucky. And it looks like, I mean, they're seriously talking about reopening the country. Now people are going, oh no, we're going to get sick and stuff. It's like, okay, I'm pretty sure they're well aware of that. It's like,
I
hear figure out a way how to do it.
And here's the thing, that in itself could produce much more draconian measures as well. Like yesterday, I came across an article that like, they want to be able to track us, while we're out and have like certain papers in place that prove that we're immune or that we've already had it.
Largely, that's not going to work out.
No, it's not going to work out. And you know what? Here's the bottom line.
China does that on a certain level.
China could do whatever the fuck China wants to do.
No, but I'm saying it doesn't work for them because, like, even though they're trying to hide stuff. And
yeah, of course, they're hiding shit all the time. And, the casualties over there are probably, a much higher multiple of whatever they told to us, But whatever the case is, and I have nothing against Chinese people or anybody who is Chinese, but the way their government is handled things has been very poor. And another thing that's kind of pissed me off is the fact that we're now looking at every other country and responding to how they're doing things. So if they cancel stuff, well, we have to cancel everything now. And, they're like, well, there's so many months in between now and the next convention. We don't know what's going to happen, which is true. Okay, fine. I get that. You don't know what's going to happen. But then they're like, but we have all these people who are in here right now who are being treated. We don't know if we can sanitize it in time. What, you think the convention centers were ever a sanitary place? How many people have gotten fucking con crud? I mean, you're talking about bringing in all kinds of people into a convention center. And we've survived things like the swine flu, which had far more casualties in the U.S. than the coronavirus has. It's all just a bunch of, like, that aspect of it is bullshit. The fact that the coronavirus is real and is affecting people and is getting them sick is a real thing, which is why I personally didn't give up my freedom by staying on lockdown. I am acknowledging and using my freedom to say, okay, I'm going to cooperate. But eventually, at some point, the draconian measures need to let up in a really dramatic way, because there are too many people, too much is at stake if they don't do that. We're not
nobody wants to be on lockdown. Like, I know some things are pushing towards it for safety, but there's a couple of factors that I was looking at. You know how like I kind of do my amateur scientist type shit or whatever.
Well, we all do. Yeah, sure.
But the thing is that I've noticed on COVID-19 Health.org, it's one of the ones that was referred to me. Unfortunately, they don't have Mexico. But they think they mostly have Asia, I think, and America and Europe, because that's where it kind of hits the most. Or initially, I know it's been hitting other parts of the nation, other parts of the world, including Iran. But Iran was kind of like a weird sort of anomaly because, like,
they got hit pretty fucking hard though.
Yeah, but I think they probably had the indicator of like the MERS type thing, because like MERS is the Middle Eastern version of SARS. So the thing is that I've been looking at the trend of curves, and for the most part they're going to hit their peak soon, or they're just
New York has already hit their peak. I think
the only one, Louisiana, hasn't quite, but even then it's not that
there's a reason for that, because Louisiana, well, of course, it's not just that, it's Louisiana and New Orleans in particular. It is a fucking dirty city. All right, I love it. I had such a blast when I went out there, but there's rats and cockroaches everywhere. I mean, and the people of Louisiana are like, well, they're our friends. We can't get rid of them, and well, they're the bastards who are fucking carrying everything. So yeah, they're getting hit hard, and I think everybody's getting hit hard in some way. But before we trail off too much,
yes,
I really want to hear. I want you to tell everybody about what you're working on, and I know it's a huge sidetrack, but we'll get back to everything we're talking about with this because it's ruling our lives enough. And really, you're the spotlight. I think people want to hear about your creative endeavors and successes and things like that, and how it all applies to what you've been through. So please take the floor.
Okay. Well, Demon Bitch, I do Demon Bitch. It's a low-level demon from the 13th pit of hell where people throw their dog shit and I can't talk today. Dog shit and gum wrappers. And she wants to bring the second coming of Armageddon, but the first one never happened because she's dumb. Anyway, so she gets also distracted by promiscuous sex and hard drugs. And she's based on all the fucking girls that I hated that were dumb and stupid. So, and they were mean too. And so I just drew a bunch of them. And some of the dialogue that you may read in Demon Bitch is like, I don't get this dialogue. And it's like, you're not supposed to get it because it's just really terrible. So I just drew all these characters that I just knew as women. And again, I started off with personal monsters where it was like a bunch of people that I fucking hated because they were assholes to me. So rather than just go commit murder, I did the right thing. And I just went ahead and made fun of them too. So
with everything that's going on now, how is that impacting your work? Like I've seen you created this new character, the COVID bitch.
Oh, Cove Thick 19. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a meme online where it's like dummy thick. That means a girl that's like really thick, like really big ass, really big boobs and shit. And like
nothing wrong with that, by the way.
Hey, that's
Uncle Henri does not discriminate.
Yeah, like
and that didn't sound creepy at all.
Yeah, like Rose and I, my friend Rose, the artist Rose, we were just sitting there and we just like think random, really fucked up shit because we have really random fucked up humor.
Sure.
So we were sitting there, and I guess it's sort of like Trey Parker and Matt Stone, except really messed up, like just dark, So we'll sit there, and like she's Jewish, so there you go.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, she's one of mine.
So I did this one where like she said, you should do a dummy thick COVID, and I'm like, fine, I'll do it. So I just drew it with her big ass and tits. And it's hilarious because I make jokes. I said, it's not nudity. Like you see her butt, but it's like she's wearing a Zentai suit. And the thing is like, it's like pseudo cheesecake stuff. And I said, okay, we're just drawing about it. And like, people really love that. They said, dude, I'd want to fucking smash that shit so hard. But it's like, yeah. So it's like, now it's like this whole thing. Now I've introduced like Black DP 51, and that's Black Death Pestilence 51 because it ended in 1551, I think, in Europe. So it's like she might be mature, but she still got it, and it's like so like what I do is like I'll draw like a generally dummy thick woman, like really thick, but I try to make them different, so like you can tell the difference. And so I'll look at it and then I'll look at the actual pathogen itself, like the electron microscope picture. So I probably will do AIDS next and swine flu, and I'll probably be like, hey, you want to get AIDS?
And do a whole orgy between them.
Right. And the thing is that it's like, it's funny because like this stuff is kind of sexy, but I haven't made it overly sexual. It's like kind of just more of a joke of making it. I think there's a thing in Japan, like a higa where it's like lewds where the girls are sticking their tongues out or the boys and like that all horny or something. So it's just like making fun of that. And some people some people start laughing. Like I have a friend, Amanda Darko. She's really kind of pioneered that trend of dummy thick and all that. And she draws the most incredible artwork. And I just saw that, and I didn't get into the dummy thick so much. And then like when I got suggested to do the COVID, I'm like, fuck it, why not? So I just drew this ridiculous fucking picture of a sexy COVID bitch. So I said, fuck it, it's random. So I just did that to kind of make fun of stuff because it's like kind of part of my brand, like Demon Bitch. It's more of random disgusting things. Like I had one of Shitbird fucking neckbeard finally because she had this, like she would just rant on and on about neckbeards. So it's like, oh, okay. Because I knew somebody that would do that.
I don't get the whole neckbeard thing. Like I got to shave I got to shave my neck. It's got to stay clean shaven.
I guess maybe it's lack on hygiene or personal appearance or I don't know. I mean, I've met guys that would qualify it as neckbeards at the cons. They were fine with me. I didn't care about like they weren't assholes. So it's like, they were like, oh, but like, there are just some people that go like, oh, look at all those fucking neckbeards. I'm like, they're not doing anything to you. Why the fuck are you having a problem? So this person would just go on and on about fucking neckbeards all the time. So I just said, oh, okay. So, and then when I stopped being friends with that person, I just went ahead and just started drawing her fucking neckbeards because I was just like, she was an asshole.
So your art is reflective of what you kind of see and you satirize it, you know.
Yeah, because it's based in truth. It's like somebody that it's kind of like sometimes there's one thing about talking about stuff all the time because it interests you. I mean, the reason why people talk about shit all the time, whether or not they really hate a politician or they hate this or they hate that, it interests them on some level because they just need to interact with it. And like usually with most things that I absolutely hate, like I'm just trying to think of things. I don't really hate that many things, which is hilarious. But when I hate people for what they do, I make fun of them. But it's like based on stuff they've actually done. You know, it's based on their train of thought, their psyche, what they do. I don't make shit up, but I don't target a certain group of doing it. Like this person just went on about neckbeards all the time and how they annoy her and bother her because they're always mansplaining to her. And I'm like going, I never had that happen. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, but okay. You know, and I'm not trying to dissuade anybody's personal experiences, but sometimes there's a big difference between actually talking about your experiences and gaslighting a group of people. Like for me, guys that would be defined as neckbeards, they were actually really kind of shy and they were actually really sweet and they were very, very awkward around me. But
I never find it easy to like simply characterize a person by their physical features. It's really just that, and not even by the looks they give you, because like, you know, even when I've been at conventions, there have been people who've given me dirty looks who I perceived it as a dirty look, but it wasn't a dirty look. That's just the kind of look they have on their face, and then, you know, they go and they support my work and they buy it. I really judge people based on their character, and it's really just a matter of like, you know, and people love to shoot their opinions. And there's a lot of people, like, especially on social media, you know, like posting stuff that just makes me roll my eyes, gets me irritated, you know, all that kind of stuff, you know, especially people who do things that to get attention. Like, you know, I knew this one guy who was like, felt like he might be sick and then like went over to like a COVID-19 testing site and like took a picture of himself in front of the testing site. It's like, you're not cool, dude. You know, like, don't fucking post that picture. Don't fucking use your phone. Get in, get out. You know what I mean? It's like, there's nothing to fucking see here, you know, and making all these like, you know, going out of your way to get attention in that way, I don't feel like is really helping you in any way, and it's just kind of making the situation worse. I think that's the biggest fear I've had in terms of what's going on. It's not that I'm fearful of the virus itself. I could give a fuck about the virus as of right now, you know, and hopefully, knock on wood, it doesn't affect anybody that is, you know, very close to me. It could, you know, could hit me, I don't know, but you know, you can't, there's only so much of it that's within your control, and you can't protect yourself from fucking getting it. We're all going to fucking get this in some way, shape, or form. It's the aftermath of how we come out of this that I think is important. And the way people are reacting right now, it makes you a little bit, it irks me a little bit. So it's good that you're out there satirizing it, because in some way, shape, or form, because we need to look at ourselves. We need to laugh at each other more. You know, that's the problem. We take every fucking thing too seriously.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think it's also a self-fulfilling prophecy, because sometimes they're like, oh, well, this thing canceled. Oh, guess what? It canceled. Oh, and I'm like, it's like, well, I guess everything else is canceled. Oh, I'm so sad. I'm like, okay, these things change day by day.
Absolutely. It'll come as quickly as it went. I fucking agree with you.
Like they were predicting, oh, we won't be able to move around and do anything until August. And now, oh, guess what? That's not the case.
Oh, you know? They jump up and down. And here's the thing. I think a lot of this has been beneficial and effective in the sense that when they say these kinds of things, you have to keep in mind that they're modeling, right? And what are they modeling on? Statistics. But statistics don't determine the actions of people. Here's what does. Fear. Fear is a great tool to keep people in check. And they've had to use all of these horrible draconian measures in order to kind of like keep us in place so that we can ride this thing out. Now the question is, how are they going to let go of this, and how are we going to let go of this and go back to society? Because I don't think this will just be a gates are open, we're out the door. I think this is going to be a gradual thing, and it's probably going to start out in the West Coast because that's where the virus started from. So I think you guys will start to see more lax, restrictions in the coming month. I agree with that. I mean, after reading that article that you sent me yesterday, where the mayors of Oregon and Washington and California, all agreed to work together, and they're like, all right, we're coming together.
It was weird because I had to roll my eyes at some people that said, oh yeah, that means California, the West Coast are going to secede from America. I'm like, no, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't fucking mean that. God, gee, why are fucking people so stupid? No.
Yeah, I'm like, no, it doesn't. It's far from that. It's just they're having a coordinated effort. Okay, we had the cases there. Yeah. Let's go coordinate and see how we can do our part to open up to normality again. Yeah. And I'm just like,
and I should apologize because I shouldn't have that reaction. People who have that fear have it for legitimate reasons. I apologize. I'm so used to letting stuff like that slip out.
No, it's fine. I mean, I don't think it's bad to be afraid, but if you let fear rule you to a point where you're just hiding in your home and you think the stupidest things without any sort of logic, no, like, oh yeah, that's okay. I'm totally on board if we secede. I'm like, we would have to have our own military, right? And it's like, that's never going to happen because it has to go through a whole other fucking process. And the thing is, like, just because the state gets pissed doesn't mean, hey, fuck you, I'm leaving. There has to be a whole congressional thing.
Oh, absolutely. And no one wants that. I don't think I don't think the majority of people want to find a state of normalcy, not in the sense that things are just going to go back to the way they were, but we want to get back to some sort of routine where we can live our lives the way we are supposed to live our lives.
We can hug our friends. We can meet.
Yeah.
Like, I understand that completely. And I'm not trying to be all like, look, it's like this. If you're afraid, if you're scared, I get it. But when you get to a point where you're saying really incredibly stupid, inaccurate things, that's where my patience with people ends. And like a lot of people, like when they're going like, oh yeah, that, like I saw that this morning. I said, okay, cool. Like, I was not a fan of Gavin Newsom. I didn't think he was great with San Francisco, but you know what? He really redeemed himself in my eyes in this way. Like, he handled shit. Like, he didn't wait just for federal, but I mean, he worked with federal. Don't get me wrong. He wasn't like, hey, fuck you, federal. He worked with federal, right? And he also worked on his own end to take care of shit. I'll give him that. He didn't have to go and say, here, give me stuff all the time. I mean, it was perfectly within his right to. That's what the federal government does when there's a state of emergency. That's what they're supposed to do. But he at least did his own part to bring in stuff that we needed, like ventilators, because we were worried that it was going to be this huge high thing, and now it's not. Like, I have her personal stake in the game because my brother-in-law's brother is a surgeon, and he's going to get called into the whole COVID thing. So I have a personal thing in this. But it's just like the worst thing that people do is that they
I think that, we all have a personal thing in this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying in this point, like,
no, absolutely. Yeah.
But it's like, it makes me pissed because it's like, you guys are spreading misinformation. You're going on this whole fucking doit thing. And I'm having it's like, God, you guys like think you can go in your soapbox and talk a lot of shit and you just sound fucking stupid. And I've gotten that point, but it's like, I just don't suffer fools gladly. Usually I just snooze those people and ignore them because it's like, there's more people that are like reasonable that are saying, hey, this is going to happen. That's really cool. But that's why it's like, I've been putting up stuff like about the CARES Act and the outlines and stuff so that people can look at it so they know. But I hate the thing like, oh, my unemployment thing. I'm like, they just rolled this out a few weeks ago. That's actually pretty quick, and it's like, yeah, that'll be available till the end of April. And you know what? We might not have to kind of be that long. We may not be out of work that long. We're just trying to adjust to things. It's like, we've only done this for about 2 months. Some countries have been at this for about months and months and months on end. So it's like, I think everybody's kind of looking to us to say, what are they going to do? Because we're the only other company other than China that's kind of big and powerful that is going to do the thing. They said, well, look at China, they're reinfecting. I said, also, China has really fucked up infrastructure thanks to its government.
Absolutely. And if they would have contained this sooner by informing us, we could have properly prepared for this, and that would have been another thing. And the thing is that I'm largely very politically centered in the sense that I don't go in one direction or another. And the reason for that is because I respect everybody for their opinions. I'm not going to try and enforce my thoughts onto you because chances are you're not going to agree with me anyway, and I'm not going to try and convince you that you should. It's a wasted effort.
Well, and most of the time people don't get into a discussion. They'll just start screaming.
No, and another thing too is you have to respect people for their politics, because whether you are a Republican or a Democrat, you come from a certain line of thinking and experiences that have led you to believe that these things are the way they are for a reason that makes sense to you. Who am I, someone who is not involved with your lifestyle, not in your business every day? Who am I to tell you how to live your life? And that's part of the thing that makes this country great, is that we, and a lot of other countries now too, is that we have this ability to speak our minds and have our opinions, And yes, there are things that we've done wrong, but I think the entire world kind of dropped the ball on this. It wasn't just us. We weren't the only country affected by this. Everybody else was affected as well. And, everybody's trying to figure out how to get out of this. And, I hope I'm confident that they'll figure out something, because,
well, I don't think like, first of all, it's like, I think all of our economic system is realizing that. And I think in a way, like one guy pointed this out, and I think it's good. Now, if people say, well, what about all the people that die? Don't they matter? I'm like, of course they matter.
Of course they do. Absolutely.
No doubt. Isn't it up to us to create a better world? But one guy even, like, I listen to this guy named Robert Zink, just because sometimes I like his philosophy and he's great as kind of like a coach. And he even mentioned, and he wasn't even discounting people that died. It's just like that. Let's not just focus on just that. That's part of the big scheme. It doesn't mean they matter any less or whatever. So the thing, what bothers me about this is that all he said was that, like, governments are realizing to be more responsive to their people. And then companies are realizing it's not just about stockholders and this. They have to treat their people better, because without us, the people, they are nothing. So if we can't do shit, what are they going to have? They said, well, they want us to stand. It's like, okay, fine. But after a while, the money's going to run out. We make the money. And the thing is that I think, in a way, we have given away our power for so long by just saying it doesn't really matter. This doesn't matter. Just even to the day-to-day decisions, nothing matters. Now, that's different than, like, okay, if I get ketchup on my fries too, do I get mustard on my fries? That's personal preference. That's fine. And not everything is like this big, weighty thing. But like the things that people generally tend to dismiss, they do add up. Like, well, you might want to address like feeling upset about something. Oh, no, I'm not. Fuck it. It doesn't matter. It's stupid. It's like, well, you might want to sit through and deal with that emotion. It's like, that's what I get about that bullshit. It's like, I get so annoyed about it, because it's like, and then like, I even have a lot of artist friends. Like, once I wrote to the governor about like gig economy unemployment and freelancer unemployment, because it's concerned me and a lot of my friends, because we got fucked in this totally. The jobs we were supposed to have, the money we were supposed to make, nothing, right? So I wrote a letter to the governor, and I just said, hey, look, this is what we're facing against. This is what it is, and blah, blah, blah. I didn't even bother to talk to some people, because they would just be like, oh yeah, what's it matter now? Right? But I did. I just wrote a nice letter. I said, look, this is what we're worried about. We were worried about AB5, and now we're dealing with this. What do we do? What do we do? Because, we don't even qualify, quote unquote, as the small business that you guys put us in, because we're told we don't really have real jobs, essentially, but yet we're taxed. Come on. And again, I wasn't an asshole. Like, I just told them how it was. But within about a week or two later, the federal government saying, okay, we're going to protect gig workers and people that were freelancers. You guys got fucked in this thing, so you're qualified for unemployment too.
It's funny, because I've been trying to file for unemployment for the last like 2 to 3 weeks. And every time I go to the site, it just breaks. So I stopped trying, and I decided to go out and get some freelance work instead.
Right. I mean, the thing is that you still can. At least
I don't know. The only reason why, it's not even because I necessarily need it. Like at this point, my business isn't suffering or anything like that. But, the point is that I did lose. I mean, we all lost in this, and some of us far worse than others. And,
but I mean, as I said, it's there as an option. And the thing is that for California, it's on the 30th. But I think it's just kind of a month-long thing, because I even remember watching him at his press briefings. It's like they wanted to do it another way, but the Congress was adamant that it should go through the states. But some of the states is unemployment, like my friend Rose, she's dealing with that shit too. So it'll probably be for the next couple of weeks that it's kind of crammed, that they figure it out. Because California took about a couple of weeks. I did it a second time, so we'll see how it goes.
So so you're in the West Coast right now. Last Saturday, I came across an article that I shared on my Facebook wall about San Diego Comic-Con being canceled this year. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that we're going to see that announcement happen this week?
I think it's too early to tell. I think people are really just wanting stuff to cancel just because they think
that's the trend. That's the fucking trend now. Is just cancel it all.
Yeah, and I think the thing is that what we should focus on is finding a way to get back to normal. And they're like, well, how can, I can imagine people say, well, how can you do that? We've got this virus and they're not going to, and the government is actually responsive to the people. We were supposed to lose. This is why I do believe that things can change around. And even if they may have canceled, they can probably switch it back if they've got enough time. You know why?
I agree.
Because here's the thing. We were supposed to lose over Easter weekend or that week, 100 to 200,000 people on a good day. We lost way less than that. That doesn't mean they were less important, but the model was off.
It was significantly off. It was
I think we lost about 10K, and that was.
But let's look at it from a retrospective point of view. Okay, the model is off. All right, well, they know as much as we do in terms of what's going to happen tomorrow. They can't predict into the future and say this is what's going to happen. But by projecting way more conservatively, you could say, by saying 200,000 people were going to die, it gets people to take it more seriously. If you say only 500 people are going to die, no one's going to give a shit. No one's going to bat an eye. I mean, 500 people die in 500 minutes. It's that doesn't, on a daily basis when life is running at normal capacity, you have to kind of sell the idea that if you don't do this, it will get far worse. And I think that there's some, you could say they're lying to us, but you can also see that there's logic to what their actions are, because if this thing is real, which it is, no, I'm not going to fucking deny it's real. I mean, I know people who have died from it. I know people who have been diagnosed with it. Yeah. I know people who are living with it. So it's to say that it's this thing that doesn't exist is bullshit. It is real. It is very real. It is everywhere you can look right now. But how you respond to it is going to change depending on how serious you take this, the precautions that they're putting in place. Now, personally, I think that we're all going to get this thing no matter what. There's no way. How are they supposed to stop this now? They can't.
Even in the press conferences, they were, and as I said, people are going oh, so you support? I'm like, no, I watch the press conferences because I also want to hear it from the horse's mouth. But I also want to see how the media reports it, because there seems to be this disconnect sometimes, depending.
No, of course, not even sometimes. There's a huge disconnect. I mean, the media, and the White House are at war. I mean, it's fucking clear as day. It doesn't matter where you fall on the spectrum. That's just what's happening right now. The media and the White House are at war. That is what's happened since 2016.
And the thing is that if you listen to the doctors, they have, and you look back on their credentials, Birx and Fauci have been through the AIDS epidemic from the beginning.
Sure, yeah. Fauci's been through it all.
Yeah, Fauci has done SARS, MERS, Ebola, everything. So he's taking that experience, but also, I'm guessing what they had on the data. They looked at the data from Italy. I know they said Italy, South Korea, and China. China, they probably had to filter it in because they probably didn't know exactly, because China's not been very forthcoming about it. The Chinese government.
But they also, here's another point to China, though. They also enacted very strict measures in order to curb the spread. Their lockdown was not what we are experiencing. I can leave my house and go shopping if I need to. I can leave my house and go to the post office if I have to. If there are things I need, I can get them. Whereas in China, literally people were kept inside their house. There were people who died in their apartments, and No one got them. There were no funerals. The bodies are in the apartments,
Yeah.
rotting away and probably spreading on and doing other stuff, but that's how they contain the spread, and I believe that they did. I think there's other measure. I think they're going to still see cases because this thing's like the flu. It's not, and as much as people like to say it's not the flu, it has similarities to the flu in the sense that it's going to be here forever. I mean, there's no cure to the flu. If there was a cure to the flu, we wouldn't have any flu deaths. This is like the flu. It will be here for a long time and every day we're learning new ways to treat this thing.
Yeah. I mean, it was like I had a friend whose parents actually took the hydroxychloroquine. One of the parents actually had to be on a ventilator. She's fine now. From what I
thank God, because they say that once you get on a ventilator, there's like an 80% chance you're gonna bite the dust. So that's
I mean, it worked. Like they both had to be hospitalized, but she got it worse. But the thing is that I tend to see hope in situations in an educated level.
You have to, especially with what you've been through with your pancreas.
I mean, the thing is, I was told essentially I was gonna die because they had found an advanced metastatic cancer of my pancreas. That's what it appeared to look like, a 6-inch mass. Imagine being told that. And the next piece of news is well, it's not. It looks like, but you're going to go, you might be diabetic, to you're not diabetic and it's out.
Yeah, and even Kitsune. I mean, he was just mentioning he was. Yeah. They said doctors told him he was going to die at 16. Now he's 38. I got another friend who was born with osteogenesis imperfecta. He was supposed to die at 18. He's now in his 30s as well. It's like they can predict anything they want, and most of the time they're going to predict on a more conservative level because they want to prepare you for the worst situation. I mean, that's medicine. They want to treat. Their jobs are to treat the patients. And the only way we're going to beat this thing is by learning how to treat it, not necessarily how to cure it, because I don't think you can cure it, but you can definitely treat it. And I think that's the one thing that they're trying to come up with. Whatever vaccine they put out there, I don't know if it's going to make us immune to it. I don't think that there's such a thing as an immunity. Even when you get the flu shot, you can still get the fucking flu. I got the flu earlier this year. And I'm starting to think it may have been COVID because I had a lot of the same symptoms. It started off with a dry cough, never fucking happened before. I never had dry coughs. Yeah. And then I was basically, my entire body was aching for a couple days. And then I just kind of, got over it. But I'd never been sick like that before. So I have this theory that I may have had it already. And I know a lot of people.
They are talking about that. They have been addressing more, and I think probably why also California was not hit as hard, because I've been noticing the places that have been hit the hardest tend to have about 6 or more million people.
Yeah, more densely populated cities. Yeah, of course.
In a 300 square mile radius.
Sure.
Infected, which makes sense. But it's Kitsune was saying South Dakota is really suffering, but I'm also looking and it's their deaths are actually, and I'm not trying to, as I said, I'm not trying to minimize deaths. It's their deaths.
We're not minimizing deaths. We're minimizing Kitsune's comment statement.
I just looked at that and it's just it was 2 deaths in South Dakota. So it's they have this it's the biggest, highest projective rate, all beds available, and they're handling it well, but their curve is very low.
I think the fact that we've had all this time to prepare as a nation has helped tremendously. And I've been very patriotic about this in the sense that I don't give a fuck if you're a Republican or a Democrat. I really could give a shit because I know people who are first responders. Some of them are Republican, some of them are Democrat, some of them just don't give a fuck. And it doesn't matter. When the time comes, they all work together to get the job done. And none of your politics don't matter. This virus does not care about your politics. It doesn't care who you're voting for on November 3rd. It only cares about spreading and doing its thing and multiplying.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, what makes this particularly bad is that you may have comorbidities or things that are not in your favor to survive. You have diabetes, heart conditions, whatever.
Sure. Right? You may have things you don't even know about too. I mean, that's what I attribute a lot of the younger deaths to. It's okay, this guy was in tip-top shape on the outside, but you don't know what was going on the inside. You don't know his family history. You don't know what's going on. And that's not to say that the death isn't tragic or that this can't hit somebody really hard, like it can, but what are you can't live your life in fear of it. That's the thing that I think is, I think we all kind of need to remind ourselves constantly and almost like on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think it's kind of made me look at death in a different way. And again, like people might think, oh, you're just being flippant. And like, I'm not really flippant about it. It's kind of like I'm not as afraid of addressing it, Like sometimes some people like, oh, we don't want to address this. Like I just watched this thing. I think it's like Ask a Mortician. She's got a YouTube channel. And they were talking about Hart's Island, the potter's field for the indigent and the unclaimed dead. And that's been going on for about 100, 200 years, right? But then when the tabloids put it up, like, look at all the dead they're putting there and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, first of all, it's an outbreak. Second of all, it's like a potter's field for unclaimed dead, but they have refrigerated trucks and stuff. It's like, yes, because that's how you would deal with it ideally in a pandemic situation. They do that a lot in funeral homes. Like she was explaining, in funeral homes, they will lift the body, put it in the crematorium, whatever. They use equipment to lift the body. That's just how it works. But she just said, but what she hates is the media and social media going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And it's like, we have to kind of address the fact of how you deal with a disaster, the dead during a disaster. And it's not pretty, it's not great, but it's not the end of the world. This is what you do in an emergency for the immediate thing. And this is what you have to do. So all he said is like, hey, if this gets to be, and this was like, if we had a projected amount of I think 41,000, they thought were going to die in New York, right? New York City. It was really high. And the thing is that they had to make contingency measures. I mean, they put the USS Mercy over on Los Angeles because they expected a fuck ton of people. They expected the hospitals to be flooded. They expected LA Convention Center to be flooded. I mean, I'm kind of surprised that they are thinking and talking about, like, now they're housing the homeless over in the convention hall, like in San Diego. That's probably part of it. But I honestly, I don't know.
It's going to take them. And that's the concern, right? Is like, how do you sanitize that place in time? It's like, dude, you can sanitize that shit in like a day. If you bring in the right people, they fucking clean it up and that's it. It's sanitized. Like, and that's the best you're going to get. I mean,
I think what they're trying to do right now with mitigation, mitigation is like controlled herd immunity. Herd immunity is not a bad idea to do things, right? But the thing is that how you introduce herd immunity, I've noticed is different. Like if you just let it ride out and everything, you tend to have more people dying.
Sure. No, of course.
It's not as organized or as controlled. But if you have mitigation, you have more of a chance of containing the illness yourself. But at the same time, you're kind of going into this other aspects of like, okay, if you go out, you're not infecting as much people, you're kind of being indoors a lot more. Yes, you may infect like the other members of your family, or its chances are, but it's at a more controlled level so that if you do crash, the system is better able to take care of you to make sure you survive it. And there will be a certain percentage of people that will not survive because of this. Problem. So that's my okay.
Well, now you know that the government has heard our entire conversation.
Right.
And they could watch it live too. We'd appreciate that. We'd appreciate a follow back.
But, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, what I'm saying is that to lose hope is like, you don't do anything towards that. Do I think that Gavin Newsom read my letter? Maybe he didn't, maybe not. But I put it out there like, hey, we need this. We need to do this. Now people can say, well, it's not going through. I guess you fucked that up. It's like, fuck you. Sometimes these things take time to implement. And you could always put your input, whatever you need to do to correct it or to take care of it. It may not happen in the way you think, but the end result will happen. And that's what they call about detaching. It's just like, sometimes you just got to talk about it. Like I looked at the overall trend of the United States on the COVID tracker, and it looks like, considering the fact that we're very low, we have better practice and better treatments. I mean, not a lot of people, even though it was in the press conference, Oracle donated a fucking portal for all healthcare individuals around the world. So if they did the treatments, they could do in real time, track the patients and what they were able to react to or do.
And, another thing too, you got to keep in mind that a lot of the smartest people in the world right now are all banding together to solve this problem. And we got some pretty smart fucking people out there. I mean, there's already vaccines that are in clinical trial phases, and and I'm not a big supporter of vaccines. I'm more of a supporter of people feeling like they can get back to normal. That's what I support. It's not that I'm like, all right, I'm going to run out and get this vaccine. It's kind of like I'm the kind of guy that tries to avoid going to the doctor's office as much as possible, because they don't know about me as much as I know about me. When I have a problem that I can't solve, then I go to the doctor. That's kind of the thing. But
well, here's the thing too, is like in January, I found out that Dr. Fauci was talking about they were developing a vaccine for this. So we actually have been doing it for this month until it ramped up, because I think people don't understand here in the US is that we've had a few isolated cases, but we've never dealt with something like this before. This scares us because usually we don't get stuff like this a lot of the time. Usually it's self-contained. Usually it's just one or two people, and we usually have a vaccine. And I'm pretty sure we're close to developing a vaccine in that way. They say, oh, it's not another year. I said, well, of course. But if we have effective treatments like you and I have talked about before, like either the hydroxychloroquine or whatever works out, whatever is the shining example of what to do. And maybe we might have a few more options, who knows? But the thing is that but we also have the antibody therapy where you get injected. It's not long-term, but it's an antibody that's already manufactured that you can go and have in your system. So if you do get it, it's rendered inert. It's not the same as a vaccine. It lasts in you for, I think, a few weeks to weeks, but it's something. It's better than nothing. So if you need to go to your doctor and get a shot every so often just to ward it off.
I think we should be given a choice. This is essentially what I'm trying to kind of get at too, and what you're saying too. It's like, well, we need our options of what works for us in terms of feeling safe and going back. And I think it's going to vary from individual to individual. I don't think that I'm glad that we're going to see things ease up in certain areas first. I think that's a pretty smart way to go about it, because it's like you don't want to open up the floodgates and cause another serious issue. You want to kind of take it, step by step,
Well, it seems like the governors are kind of self-regulating those pressure valves anyway.
Of course, because that's their job. And, and I despite some of the kooky things you might say, I think the president understands that and isn't planning on going in and fucking changing all that, because he's got bigger fish to fry. It's just, it doesn't right now. I understand how people feel. I get it. But right now, those feelings need to be kind of like put aside, and we need to look to each other. We need to look to our local governments and, work with them to solve this problem. And I have to say, like, my community has been I'm very fortunate. I live in a very good community where I feel like everybody kind of like understands the risk of this. And, it's so far we've had a few people in my community that have been affected. Like my in-laws, their building, they have a few people who are sick. So obviously now the entire building is contaminated. Like, that's it. If those people walked through the hallway to get in and out of the building, COVID-19 is there, period. Fuck you. End of story. So we're all going to get this, right? And it's been like this for a month now. So those people who had it about 14 days ago, before we even knew anybody in our building had it. So we're either going to wake up one morning feeling like shit, or life is just going to go on. Because for a lot of people too, another thing that they're not talking about enough is, one, aside from the fact of how many people are recovering, how many people just don't show any symptoms at all? How many people are just literally immune to it? Like my doctor, was a friend of mine. He was exposed to COVID-19 and tested positive, but he had absolutely no symptoms from it. Yeah. And he was exposed to his parents, who are older and fall in the bracket of like the higher risk factor. They too showed no symptoms, and he's now back to work. This happened to him in like middle of March. And, so about a month ago, I want to say. Jesus, it's April 15th already. What the fuck? But anyway, everything's back to normal for him. It's business as usual. And his family so far is not showing any symptoms, like knock on wood that they fall into that category of asymptomatic and don't show any any symptoms. And I'm not sure if asymptomatic means mild conditions or if that just means
Asymptomatic means you don't show any signs of it.
Oh, okay. So that's asymptomatic.
Yeah. Like
I'm a comic book writer, not a doctor, for Christ's sake.
Well, I mean, there's mild, there's asymptomatic mild, and then there's moderate, and then severe and critical. Those are the 4 classifications that they have, I think, right now. For me, I think probably California, I'm also hypothesizing they probably weren't hit that bad. I mean, I'm not saying Asian Americans aren't everywhere, but especially a lot of Chinese Americans and a lot of Chinese nationals, they travel a lot. Like, I think California gets most of the Asian traffic.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Everything from boat comes to California from Asia.
Yeah. Like the East Coast will get it from Europe because like going to Europe is quicker from there. So even though COVID-19 originated from China over to Europe and took kind of more of a circular route and it went this way.
It followed the Silk Road.
Yeah, like it kind of the other way around. But I think a lot of people that were coming back from Asia, aka China, and all this other stuff, I think I wouldn't be surprised if quite a few of them built up a herd immunity. Like,
it's possible. It's very possible. I agree with you. I think that we're so focused on all these horrifying, statistics, and we're all following the numbers. We're all like just, paying attention to the stuff, and you can put it off to the side and you can focus on yourself and do things that are positive, but eventually you have to face the reality of what this is. But I don't think it always needs to be doom and gloom. There's so many things to factor in. Like, another thing too is, ever since our emissions have been turned off and everything, like, there's less pollution, and like bears are fornicating and populating mountains, and we're gonna have plenty of bear meat this winter. So
there you go. Yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of at this point now where like we'll just take it day by day. I think to me, San Diego is kind of up in the air. We've got another 2 months before anything.
3 months, actually. It's still
3 months, yeah. So it's like I look at I think they're just scared because they think, oh, it'll be August, and I'm like, I don't think it'll be August. I think before that time we'll actually have effective treatments, so we can live our lives and not be rushed to the emergency room. I do believe also because they're actually making inroads quite a bunch every day. If you notice, the media hasn't slammed hydrochloroquine for a while, so I'm guessing it's working. Because when it first came out, they're like, it's not the miracle drug. It's like no one was touting it. It was just
no one was saying it was a miracle drug. The idea behind it was that combining it with Z-Pack with Z-Packs, and with antibiotics, helped treat the symptoms of COVID. It's not a cure for COVID. It just keeps you prepared. And the thing is that I don't know if it, from what I understand, from what I gather, it's not like a guaranteed thing to work, and it either works or it doesn't. And if it doesn't work, it could have some serious negative results. So, and then there's people out there who are really stupid and who were taking this stuff without a doctor's, no,
they just went and got fish cleaner.
Yeah. That's fucking, no, that's not the same thing. And they didn't even have symptoms of it. So it's like, don't diagnose and don't go take drugs yourself without talking to a doctor. If you're going to take drugs, make sure they're green and they're called marijuana. That's it.
It is very funny because like I had a friend that did take it because he was in a country with malaria in it, and as a kid, and he said that actually they would take it as a supplemental, but the kids that didn't take it got it bad. So it's just to lessen the effects.
Sure.
But that's all I'm saying is that for me, I'm just kind of like, look, I mean, it's too early to tell, but it looks like the trend for COVID-19, it's on its way down. Now, I know that there's going to be naysayers that pop up like, well, Christy, don't put false hope. I'm like, well, hamstring isn't good either, but I'm like tracking it like every day it goes by, and it's on a downward curve.
Well, what's wrong with being positive? What's wrong with sharing your, we hear enough negative opinions from people. Why not share your positive opinion? I mean,
it's funny because I think people try to go like, well, this didn't work out and ended up horrible for me, so that's just going to end up horrible for everything. I said, okay, no, you just learn. It's not going to be the same way, but hey, if you want to call into your life the same negative shit all the time, then you mean like you're defying the doctor. I'm not saying that at all. I'm doing my part. I went out for a walk, but I covered my face. I wore gloves. I didn't go and touch everything in the world.
You didn't look other people in the face?
No, I didn't. And then I went ahead and I just I live my life, but I live my life what I can do right now. And that's what you do right now. Like right now, I draw a lot of shit. I put my shit out there. I'm out interviewing with you. I interviewed with the last guy. I talk about stuff. I put myself out there, and that's all I do. And it's like, I don't hide out and just sort of wail and cry about how nothing is going to be easy and look at the economy. It's crashing now. It's like, yeah, it's in the shitter now, but we don't know how it's going to be in about a month. Oh, how can we survive? I'm like, look, I'm all for kind of seeing how things are, but I wouldn't be surprised if we bounce back somehow. We found a way to do it. It's like, you don't know what comes your way in life. That's what I know. It's like, if I knew everything that came my way in life, I wouldn't have the fucking pancreatic tumor. I wouldn't have it at all. But here we go. And to a point, you're just like, you can only prepare so much for either the good or the bad or both. And even then, when you prepare for the worst, it's like, okay, you prepared for the worst. Was it exactly the worst that you're going to have? Because some people prepared for the worst and it was like nothing what they anticipated. So they were totally unprepared at all. I mean, you can only prepare within reason. Like for me, I have some baby wipes and I have some disinfecting fluid and I bought some extra detergent and cat food and litter because I didn't know when it was safe to go to the store again. But even then, I still go to the store every so often. But it's not but I go at times where it's not risky for me, like early in the morning when there's nobody there. It's like, I know if I go later in the day, it'll be busy and I'll be around more people. So I avoid that. It's like, I just use common sense along with that about living the life that I want.
For sure.
If I want to go out for a walk, I cover my face and I don't be around a lot of people, if at all. And largely the people on my street are not there or anything. So it's like kind of annoying to me how people want to go and, shoot it down. It's like, look, let's just focus on what we want. We want to have this convention. We want
I think everybody wants the same thing right now. And that's,
but I mean, like people really shoot themselves down. And like the whole thing about, oh, this is a manufactured thing. This is what I've noticed is that even though, okay, we could talk about deep state and shit, and I'm not going to get into that because it's stupid. But I think people like to operate on the level of least resistance. So I think they were just trying to cover their ass. And when they found out how contagious it was and they fucked up, because they didn't quarantine anybody in the province or in that city when it first happened, they wanted to sweep it under the rug. That's how it spread. Even though their doctors were telling them this, like, hey, this is not right. And they threatened their doctors. So it's like, okay. So I just am at this point now where it's like, I'll focus on what I want. And I think it's best for everybody to focus on what they want. And I know sometimes it's hard when you're dealing with a lot of shit, and especially this. But the thing is that it's not, don't make it bigger in your mind than it already is. Like, yeah, it's big in my mind. I talk about it a lot. But I go from the medical standpoint and also looking at the NIH and checking things out and saying, okay, this is what it is. This is what I'm really looking at. Like people are going and getting gloves and stuff. I'm like, you don't need to get all those because like usually what they're for is one-time use with one person as a vector, like your patient. Usually you just basically a mask that's cloth and cloth gloves. The virus does not live very long on cloth and you can wash your cloth. That's it. You're not contaminating anything else. But it's just people get all like weird about that and they think, oh, I have to do the hospital type level. And I understand it's very sterile and stuff, but the type of usage that you have to have out of it, nobody thinks about. So now we got to think about it. And I'm just, as I said, I'm just kind of like, it's like, sure, in the time of great uncertainty, it is easy. That happens to me too. But why don't we focus on the things that we want rather than the things that threaten to overwhelm us?
I agree with you. Christie, we got to wrap it up now. So can you do me a favor? Can you tell people where they can find you? And we'll try and get you back on the show at some point because I think we were just starting to scratch the surface and you were saying some really interesting things. But I'm going to give you the floor to tell us where we can find you and one last final push for your work. Here you go.
www.horrortaurusstudios.com. It is on my name thing. You can go there and I will be on Twitch, Picardo. Facebook's been acting funny, so it might not be this week, but Facebook, Twitch, Facebook Live, Twitch, Picardo, Periscope, YouTube, you can find me at when I do my lunch hours Monday through Friday, 12:30 to 1:30 p.m.
Excellent. All right, Christie, thank you so much for coming on. I will talk with you soon. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. I think it's another news channel now.
Thank you. Take care.
You're welcome.
All right. All right, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. Tomorrow we got Dan Doherty coming on. He's going to talk about stuff with me, I guess. And I look forward to seeing you guys. Until then, onward to victory.